I am glad to be here, Dr. Cholo, standing on the shoulders of a giant like yourself. Myself, as you can see, Dr. Zigala, I don't have the 40 years of unbroken record. It was biologically impossible for me. But I'm glad to be here and humbled that the government of the Republic of South Africa has bestowed to me this humbling responsibility that makes my to speak in the annual lecture of a veteran, 98 years old. It's no small feat, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, we will also get the secrets of this long life, Dr. Cholo, so that we can live longer like yourself. But it's also no small feat that he is honored while he's still alive. I know the generations that you say, give a man or a woman his flowers while he's still alive. We are here to give you your flowers, Dr. Cholo, while you are still alive. For the sacrifice of childhood and your own personal life, what you have given to the people of South Africa. As a surviving victim of the security forces of brutality of apartheid, 90-year-old Dr. Tlou Cholo, a trade unionist and a former combatant of Umkhonto weSizwe. His father was also a trade unionist, from whom into the province of Gauteng. He immediately joined trade unions and became an activist. He is a surviving member of a glorious generation of Nelson Mandela, O.R. Tambo, and many other struggle stalwarts. At this age, he has seen it all under apartheid. We are in the presence of someone whose experience of the brutality of apartheid and lived to tell us the tales, particularly ourselves, the younger generation. We are mostly grateful for his opportunity to go down the brutal memory lane of apartheid. It humbles us to know what it was like to live under the yoke of the crime against humanity, a threat to regional and international peace and security. We often wait for our heroes and heroes to ascend the earth before we confront their greatness and magnitude of their sacrifices. Hence, it is also a bit awkward for me, Dr. Cholo. I'm speaking for the first time in an annual lecture of someone who is still alive. But I'm glad that I'm here speaking so that we can educate each other about this life of sacrifice, what you have gone through for this country to be free. The only awkward thing is that, you know, when you speak when they are no more, they can't stand up and correct you. So here, if I quote wrong things of his history, he is here, you know. He can stand up and say, no, there you are wrong, you know. But also, the veteran Zigalala is here. He can also say, no, Comrade Lamola, please don't misrepresent facts. Dr. Cholo left the country through Botswana and took the Freedom Ferry to cross into Zambia. In 1962, he was involved in founding the first military camps, the Lutuli and Mandela and the Morogoro and Kongwa camps in Tanzania. Further testimony to his astute organizational and leadership skills. He belonged to the Lutuli detachment. He was part of the advanced units that in 1966 attempted to infiltrate South Africa through the then Rhodesia and Botswana to clear the way for Lutuli the Wanki battle. Dr. Cholo and his unit were arrested and sentenced in Botswana to 3 years and 9 months. Ladies and gentlemen, it's clear he was a brave warrior, a courageous South African who was determined to liberate his country. He was released and deported back to Zambia after they later applied pressure on the Botswana government. In 1969, he attended the Morogoro Conference as one of the representatives of the MK. In the ANC, the Morogoro Conference is seen as a turning point, particularly in coming up with a strategy and tactic, which Dr. Zigalala was speaking about when he was speaking about the issues of tactics with regards to the government of national unity. He was one of the commissars of MK and a deputy commander. The detachment trained as a naval force in the USSR, today Russia, as the Azerbaijan Republic Naval Base in 1971. He attempted to enter South Africa through the Indian Ocean. The following year, his unit managed to infiltrate the country, but within 5 months, all members of his unit were captured and charged under the 1967 Terrorism Act in a trial that became as the Great Pretoria 6. His co-accused were Sandi Gadina Sijake, Justice Mpanza, Aaron Mtembu, John William Hosi, and Alexander Mombaris. Cholo was subsequently sentenced to 16 years, which he was served on Robben Island prison. I think he might be the only surviving member of this group. I know Sandile Sijage, is still alive. It means it's the two of them. Dr. Cholo was released from Robben Island in 1988. The same year, he became one of the founders of the Association of the Ex-Political Prisoners of South Africa. In 1990, after the unbanning of the ANC and the other organization, he was elected as the first Soshanguve branch chairperson of the ANC. This is historic because for us now, when you see branches of the ANC all over the country, we always think that there were many branches. In Soshanguve today, there's not only one branch, there are many. So you can see the impact of his work. Dr. Cholo was also awarded the Order of Luthuli in silver for his selfless sacrifice by the President of the Republic of South Africa. For his selfless sacrifice, for his role in the trade union movement. I'm not going to mention the other award awaiting the ANC structures to bestow on him. I just hope it will be awarded while he is still with us, so that we give him his flowers while he is still alive. He still resides in Soshanguve. He continues to inspire young people in Soshanguve and continue to participate in the community life of that area, to shape the society and to participate in his future life. We are grateful that Freedom Park is hosting this event because this is an area which transcends generations. With its historical research, it's able to delve into a number of historical events in our country, from the genocide up until to the revolutionary struggle in 1994. This is a platform for reverberating and renewal of our ideas, and is a befitting place to remember and to celebrate the life of Dr. Cholo. It is therefore fitting that in the presence of Dr. Cholo, we are interrogating the theme of 30 years of democracy. Quo vadis, South Africa. Quo vadis being a Latin phrase for where to from here. We are now in our 7th administration after 6 elections since the historic elections of 1994. Are we back where we started in 30 years ago in 1994 when South Africa had the government of national unity? In 1994, the African National Congress won the elections outright. Nonetheless, the interim constitution compelled President Mandela to appoint parties in the National Assembly with a particular threshold, because the constitution of the interim constitution had put a threshold of parties that could be appointed to cabinet. This was a product of the CODESA compromise in the interest of nation building. Fast forward to 2024. This time the African National Congress wins the elections, but not with an outright majority. And we also did not get the 50% plus 1 as per the requirement of the constitution to form a government alone. We accepted the results without hesitation. Once again, in the interest of the nation, we formed a government of national unity, because we did not want to spend a lot of time bickering about the challenges of the elections, but we wanted to focus on the challenges facing the nation: inequality, unemployment, and poverty. So, quo vadis democracy. We have proven that we are a democracy. Our democratic foundations are firm. We have strong Chapter 9 institutions like the judiciary, the Independent Electoral Commission, the Human Rights Commission, the Commission on Gender, and the Commission on the Racial Inequality, and others. This approach has been commended all over the world as a model of democracy. Wherever we have been, in the People's Republic of China, the Government of National Unity as a people's first program has been accepted and commended upon. Even in the Western world, in the United States of America and in the UK, it is also supported by the majority of people in South Africa. Surveys are showing that South Africans support the work of the Government of National Unity. We have also said, even in the US, that as they go to their elections, they've got lessons to learn from us. Young as we are in this democracy, they've got lessons to learn, and this model can be emulated anywhere. They must understand that elections can never be perfect. With the upcoming elections, whatever the challenges may be, whoever loses must accept the outcomes of elections. Because whatever happens in the elections of America, as one of the mature democracies in the world, it becomes an example in many parts of the world. Others within our ranks and in society have criticized this tactical maneuver as a sellout position like they did in 1994. How can this position be characterized as a sellout position when surveys shows that South Africans support the GNU and the international community? Early indications are showing that on the back of this sentiment, South Africa could achieve 2% economic growth and more in the outer years, and this can help us create much more needed jobs. We have not been able to reach 2% economic growth in the past 10 years. How can it be a sellout if we will be able to reach this 2% economic growth out of these sentiments that we are going through by the year 2025? And all indications by those who knows economics, statisticians and everyone are saying we might for the first time achieve this 2% economic growth. And it doesn't end there. They say if we achieve this 2% economic growth in 2 consecutive years, 2025 and 2026, we can be able, estimatedly, to create more than 500,000 jobs, even to 1 million. So how can this be a sellout position? This has also enabled us to consolidate and turn the corner on the work we've already started on the network industries to enable economic growth, in particular energy security. We have achieved almost 200 days with no load shedding. When we promised that load shedding might be gone before the elections, it was met with skepticism. I believe even some of you here, during the electioneering period, everywhere where we're speaking, when we promised that no, this thing of load shedding, we have turned the corner, it was met with, yeah, really? Yeah. Everyone was saying no, it's just electioneering. But now it's after elections, and still there is no load shedding. No one is coming back to say, no, man, we were wrong. This time you were right. Yes, no one is coming back to say, no, man. At least credibility is restored in the government of South Africa. We are also doing the same with the network industry in logistics. We are also turning the corner in the logistics sector, where Transnet is also clearing the backlog in Richards Bay and charging ahead to resolve the locomotive challenge. There are also reforms aimed at allowing private sector access to rail networks that can further boost capacity. All economists are saying if we resolve the network challenges, 1, the electricity challenge, 2, the locomotives and logistic challenge, we are on the right track to achieve this 2% economic growth. So how can we be a sellout if we are resolving the challenges of the motive forces of the National Democratic Revolution? Because the struggle is about the motive forces of the National Democratic Revolution. So if what the ANC government, the government of national unity that is led by the ANC, is resolving the problems and the challenges affecting the motive forces of the revolution, how can we be a sellout? Because we are responding to these challenges. So I argue that the revolution is on track. We are not a sellout. In fact, we are standing on the shoulders of Oliver Tambo. We are standing on the shoulders of Nelson Mandela. We are standing on the shoulders of Dr. Cholo. because they all understood that the ANC does not exist for itself, but it exists for the people of South Africa. And if we stand above everything and say, in the interest of South Africans, we are forming this government of national unity so that we can resolve the challenges facing the motive forces: unemployment, inequality, and poverty. This is what we are now confronting head on. How can we be called sellouts? We are also dealing with the challenges. We know that there are challenges with NFSAS. The Minister of Higher Education is at work engaging with all the stakeholders, consulting to find a long-lasting solution with regards to the teething challenges that recur annually with regards to NFSAS. And she is going to engage with everyone, students, universities, and everyone to find a long-lasting solution with regards to the NFSAS. And whoever may want to say anything, post-1994, 30 years into our democracy, the NFSAS has been the biggest contributor to break intergenerational poverty. Most of us will not be standing here if it was not NFSAS. I am a product of NFSAS. And I know that even most of your professors here are product of NFSAS. Some of you are still benefiting from NFSAS. It's the biggest breaker of intergenerational poverty. This happened in the last 30 years. And this government is continuing to protect this intergenerational poverty breaker, to take it forward, to ensure that the future of young South Africans is invested upon. How can we be called sellouts if we are continuing with this program? I argue again that we are not sellouts, but we are agents for change. The government of national unity is working for the benefit of the motive forces of the National Democratic Revolution. And this is the primary responsibility that the African National Congress exists for. We don't exist for our own sake. And it is also against this background that myself, where I am deployed as the Minister of International Relations, we will be filing the memorial in our case against Israel. This memorial is in line with the Genocide Convention, which we filed earlier on, where we had 4 provisional indication measures which were granted by the International Court of Justice. By the end of this month, we are continuing with this case. We are not withdrawing because we are in the government of national unity, but we are forging ahead. How can we be called sellouts when we are continuing with the task of the National Democratic Revolution? We are continuing with the values that the ANC has espoused. We are continuing with the constitution of the country. We are continuing with our international progressive outlook on international relations. How can we be called sellout for that? For exercising our task in line with the National Democratic Revolution. We are saying, point us to where we have retreated. And this is where Mao says it does not matter whether the cat is black or white, as long as it catches the mice, yes, as long as it catches the mouse. Why does it matter that in the government there is a DA, there is a Freedom Front, there is this one, if we are still continuing to discharge the program of the National Democratic Revolution? Does it matter who is doing the job? Or what matters is the delivery? What does people want in this country? People want to see water in their taps. People want to see electricity. People want to see economic growth. People want to see the country creating jobs. And that's what we're doing. How can we be called sellouts for doing what we are supposed to be doing in line with the National Democratic Revolution? So in this legacy, Dr. Cholo, we know that you have laid a good foundation for us to take the country forward. And we will continue in this progressive internationalist outlook. We are also involved in diplomatic efforts in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the ceasefire process negotiated by Angola, which is called the Luanda process, is a step in the right direction. Our armed forces continue to be there as part of the DRC, Samim DRC, with an aim to stabilize and allow the political engagement process to take its course. We have successfully allowed and initiated a process in the northern part of Mozambique, in a place called Cabo Delgado. Most of you will know the terrorism insurgents in that area. But through our intervention, the situation has stabilized. We continue to monitor the situation. We continue to call for the allowance and the self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. We continue to call that what is happening in Western Sahara is not in line with international law. The people of Western Sahara deserve self-determination. They deserve to run their own country. And it is in this regard that we continue. It is in this regard that we continue to engage with the United Nations Special Envoy on this matter with one clear goal: self-determination for the people of Western Sahara. Leave the confusion that happened recently. But we continue with our task because that is what we have to deal with. I want to conclude with this one. If you did not hear me on anything, at least hear me on this one. As you may already know, South Africa will assume the G20 presidency from Brazil in December 2024, this year. President Ramaphosa has already announced that the theme of our presidency will be solidarity, cooperation, and sustainable development. We believe that this is one of the most significant moments in our young democracy. This will be our biggest national project after the World Cup and our fight against COVID-19. And we call upon all South Africans to rally behind this. We want to make this a people's G20. If you don't understand what does this mean, you can go back and Google in your, I know you have got the internet now. Just Google and check what is G20. And also check which African country has ever hosted the G20. And how many countries from the global south have hosted the G20. The magnanimity of this event is shown and demonstrated. We are taking over from Indonesia, India, and Brazil will be hosting it. After us, it will be the United States of America. But we are the first in the African continent to host this G20. We see it as an important platform. We plan to prioritize discussion on the just transition, financing for development, and transforming global financial structure, infrastructure development, and other important issues. Issues of governance of artificial intelligence and innovation, food security and the debt trap, implementation of Agenda 2063 of the AU, and the groundbreaking Pact of the Future that was adopted by the UN General Assembly. Who knew that in spring there can be snow in deep rural KwaZulu-Natal? These are the clear signs that what we used to theorize about, climate change and the number of challenges the world is facing, is no longer theory, it's real. So we have to ensure that financing for climate change to enable us to mitigate against the effects of climate change is made practical and possible. I hope I have discharged your mandate properly, Professor Maseremole. I'm now responding to the question Dr. Cholo asked you. Only 3% of climate change financing goes to the global south, which includes the African continent. And this is unfair because we are the most disproportionate affected by climate change. So it means more funding must come to the global south and the African continent if we are to respond to the disaster of climate change and to mitigate against it. It is against this background that we will use our G20 platform as a host to zoom into these important issues of international concern. But they also have a local effect, as we have seen with the snow in KwaZulu-Natal. And it is against this background that all South Africans are called upon to participate in this national project of hosting one of the most successful G20 the world has ever seen. They must know that this country of Mandela is beautiful. It has got handsome and beautiful people, people with hospitality, who are going to take care of everyone. You want to show them how we transited from apartheid to a thriving democracy, that this is a rainbow nation, and South Africa is alive with possibilities. Thank you very much.